Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in to the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of meeting with Reggie Bailey, who is a certified project manager and a small business owner of Dream This. She has been working with small businesses for the last 6 or so years to help them just thrive in all things project management, whether it be for policies, procedures, and processes to help their business grow and just provide world-class services to their customers. Welcome, Reggie. It's so good to have you.
Thank you for that introduction.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. Would you like to go into a little bit more about what you do and kind of what your goals are with your company?
Sure. So currently, I've been working on turning my part-time passion work into something with more reach. I've been working with small businesses to scale their operations for about 6 years, and I've been speaking more a little bit lately too. I'm somebody who has spoken in the past a lot on a lot of different topics, very, from youth and social impact to self-esteem to business operations. So I'm not a stranger to the stage, so to speak, but it's just been different topics. And so with somebody that has a varied background like myself, I bring a really unique perspective and skill set to all kinds of different businesses, which is why the name Dream This, right? It's like dream what you want to do, build it, and then I'm here to support you on the back end. That said, I won't work with just anyone because I'm careful with whom I accept as a client to ensure that I deliver my best and align with their goals and values because I'm not going to be in alignment with everyone. But on an average day in my business, you could find me designing brochures, websites, content, offering resume assistance and career plans, SOPs, SOWs, and so much more. So when I speak, I typically like to bring my passion and education together for a perspective that can be used both professionally and personally. So that's a little bit about what I do.
I love that. And you and I have a lot in common. Some of the things that you're doing, I'm also doing, and just helping people grow, helping businesses grow, helping individuals grow with
Yeah.
the resume work, because it's all about just showcasing yourself in the right light. And the same goes for going after opportunities too.
Hmm.
We have the past performance versus a personal resume, and the goal of both is just to show what you've done in the best light so that you can then get that next big opportunity. And it's something that it is a skill I didn't realize until many years into things, that not everybody knows how to translate like that. And so
Hmm.
I've done a lot of resume work over the years, just out here trying to, it's my way, I say, of fighting demand. I'm keeping people off unemployment. I'm helping people maintain good jobs and careers.
Yeah, I feel pretty similar to that. And I think, we're living in a world of computer generated everything. And right now, AI is not smarter than human beings, so they claim, but AI scans our resumes, not a person. And so we have to be smarter than the computer. We have to understand how to reframe our resumes and our experience in a light that AI will send a cue to the human that says,
Hmm.
hey, this person is interesting.
Yep. Got to beat that algorithm.
Hmm.
Yeah. That's why I always tell people, and I'm sure you do the same. Um, Look at the announcement, use their
Yeah,
language back to them if you can,
exactly.
whatever the keywords are. And even if that's not the same language that you normally would use, if you want to pass the first layer of review, which is done by a computer, you do want to match that verbiage as much as you possibly can.
That's right. Yeah, and it's hard because um, oftentimes, especially as women, we diminish our skill set um, or want to like explain what we've done in the past in the most simplistic way possible, and we often sort of forget that we've done things that are really quite remarkable and need to be highlighted on our resume. So that's why I enjoy working with women specifically. I do work with men very often. So I'm not a one-stop shop for only women, but it is just one aspect of my business that I enjoy.
That makes sense. As you're spot on, as women, we tend to downplay ourselves. And one of the topics I speak a lot about is imposter syndrome. And a lot of women I know struggle with that. And so they won't go after jobs if they don't check every single box because they
Mhm.
don't feel like they're fully qualified or that they are the expert. And so building self-esteem is something that I have a lot of conversations about, and I imagine you do as well, because we downplayed our achievements. We
Yeah.
like to pass it off as like, oh, I got lucky. Oh yeah, it wasn't as big of a deal as what it really was. But oftentimes, no, it's actually even bigger of a deal than what you're saying.
It is, and I know that I've spoke locally in my chapter about courage, vulnerability, and bravery recently. So that those topics are not um, strange to me, and I use them quite often when I'm coaching women because self-esteem and self-awareness are the key to highlighting yourself as a person, but also believing in yourself. And when you do that, imposter syndrome doesn't exist.
Imposter syndrome, yeah, imposter syndrome is really just a lack of confidence deep
It
down,
is. It
with
is.
a fancy name and all these other things
Mhm.
attached to it. But yeah, that's if you
Yeah.
boil it down, lack of confidence for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, it's awesome that we have so much in common and that we're both out here trying to fight the good fight on behalf of people everywhere. So let's see. Let me give you some questions here. So I'm curious, what is your biggest challenge or what has been the biggest challenge that you have faced in your life that you've been able to overcome?
Sure. Big question. I would hate to start an interview off with this subject. However, it really has made me into who I am today. 3 years ago, I lost my son tragically in an accident. And I have just begun coming out of hibernation and cocooning in the last 6 months. And my second event of coming out of the cocooning was speaking at the local PMI symposium. So I suppose I've come back already, ready to go. I don't want to diminish how much intense work I had to do to even want to hang my shingle back out again, but to be open to helping others, I had to help myself first, and that was a lot of work. So if anyone is going through something like that, I want them to know right away that I'm a human being, that I've been through some really hard, um, tragic things. And so that helps me even more understand where you might be in your business because I understand pain, I understand frustration, I understand anger, all of those things. So I think, yeah, that's a big challenge.
That is amazing that you are out here 3 years later, putting yourself back out there. As someone who I can relate to a degree, I lost my brother and his girlfriend in a car wreck some years ago, over a decade ago now, 2011. And my mom has never been able to fully get through that.
Hmm.
And then about 6 years ago, she lost my stepdad. And so she's kind of on her own as an island right now up in Ohio. I live in Alabama. And loneliness is something that she struggles with. And just losing a child, there's nothing like it. I can't relate. I don't have kids, but I've seen the pain that she continues to go through. And it hurts my heart as her daughter because I can't do anything about it to take it away.
Hmm.
So my heart really goes out to you and to anyone else that has dealt with such a horrible experience. So kudos to you for being brave enough to even talk about that and to put yourself back out there 3 years in. That's amazing.
Yeah. And again, going back to the courage, bravery, and vulnerability topics, because I'm a courageous person by nature, I didn't see any other option in the moment. I knew from past experiences that I've had that I would survive it, but I wanted to thrive again. And I knew that was going to take work. So and I've seen other moms lose their children, and to me, I had really two options on the table: either hide for the rest of my life and be sad, or live again. And live again sounded a whole lot better to me. So that's the choice I made, and did the work. But yeah,
And that's
my
definitely what your child would have wanted too. I mean, your child
for
would
sure.
want you to be out there happy again. And um, mourning is a cycle, of course. So I'm sure there are still days that hit you and it sucks you right back into that grief. But wow, my heart goes out
Yeah,
to you for going through that, and to anyone else that has experienced that, because there are different types of grief, and that one is might be the worst type of grief out there.
I won't disagree with that. And yeah, my heart goes out to all moms that have had to go through what I've gone through as well. But
So another question for you.
sure.
How do how do you continue to raise the bar in your personal and professional life after everything you've gone through and all the things you've learned and done in your life so far?
Yeah. Well, I would say I'm a naturally curious person, and I'm continuously exposing myself to new ideas and ways of doing things to help create a more connection and less disconnection. Additionally, I take a lot of continuing education classes to learn a new skill, new tech. I'm an early adopter in that sense, so I like exploring new methods that I often end up engaged in the development because of my feedback. If you're a fellow project manager listening to this, you would understand that cycle of product development and feedback loop. So, for example, when I help a small business owner to create their business and give them back time with their family and allow them to reconnect to their passion, it ignites my passion. I want to learn something new to continue to be able to do that, because technology is really outpacing um, anything we could have ever imagined when you and I were growing up. And so I sort of think of it as an infinity symbol, that I always have to be taking in new information and helping raise the bar for clients and myself, to stay ahead of that, because that's the only way that we continue to stay connected as humans and to eliminate the disconnection, which often comes when you're trying to build a small business. You're head down trying to, perfect something. Excuse me. And so it just takes an outside perspective now and then to get you ahead, and not always away from the goal. And that's easy to do, to get disconnected and away from the goal, because you get lost in the minutia, so to speak.
Yeah. And the rapid speed at which technology is constantly changing means you've always got opportunity to learn more. And with the advent of AI, it's been crazy to try to wrap your mind
Mhm.
around and your arms around um, artificial intelligence. I'm trying to be an early adopter there as well, because it's just we're going to get left behind if we don't.
That's right. Yep. And I'll be frank, I love AI. I love what it can do for me. I love using it for, filling in the blanks when my brain just is like done for the day. But I also like it for the creative aspects. I mean, to be able to say, I'd like to see a teddy bear cowboy in the Wild Wild West, and it instantly creates an image. That doesn't take away from an artist that can also do that, but it brings your imagination to life. And really, I think there's an aspect that we're not considering on that, and that is art is built off of um, replication. I think it was Picasso who said, good artists copy, great artists steal. And so, do we consider AI the great artist? It's a question that I
Mm.
don't know that I can answer yet, and I don't think any of us can. It remains to be seen what will happen. But yeah, we will be left behind if we don't use it. And PMI has just called for AI governance and said the AI governance is now. We have to do this now before it is smarter than us, before before we're looking at the dystopian future of robots telling us get back in our house, like the movie with Will Smith. I've forgotten the name of it, but anything's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's scary to think about what could happen if AI surpasses our intelligence and then maybe takes over, our government or our systems or whatever.
Hmm.
So I didn't know that PMI was making a call for that, and I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that a big organization that is international and touches a lot of different industries, probably every industry really, if you think about it, that they are now putting their name out there and their thoughts out there because we do need it. We need an international governance plan to make sure that we are still in control because at some point especially with the combination AI and machine learning, it's going to surpass our intelligence, not by just a little bit, but like tenfold or more.
Sure.
Just I can't even wrap my mind around it. And so I'm glad to hear that. But jumping back to what you said about the art piece,
Hmm.
I'm an artist. I write songs. I do comedy. I do some painting and things too. But um, I'm starting to look at AI as a medium. So
Hmm.
it's just like, I can paint with acrylic or I can paint with watercolor and the paint type is the medium. And so AI is also a medium because it's the ideas that I'm putting into it and then AI is creating on my behalf. And sometimes it doesn't get it right, of course. But I'm starting to look at it that way, which is different when I first started learning AI back in November 2022. I immediately thought like this is a ripoff, it's stealing. Um, but after dealing with it for so long and also succumbing to the inevitability, it's not going anywhere. So you either adapt to it and use it in the ways that make sense for your life and your business, or you stay away from it and then you kind of get left behind.
You do. And I think we grew up with plenty of people who might have said something like that newfangled technology. And we know what we don't want to become, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen, the development of fake news headlines from AI. And so we know that that has potential far-reaching effects, so we have to rein in and have governance around it. But as a fellow artist, I love that you say it's a medium, and I hope you don't mind that I steal that and continue to spread that because I absolutely concur. It is a medium because if AI gets it wrong, like you're saying, we we now have a visual that we are able to manipulate again with our minds. That's not AI. And so again, we're using the medium again. Oh, you didn't get that quite right, AI. How about this?
Yeah.
And I think it's the same way to use it for project management. I think anybody who works with me needs to know that I absolutely use AI, and want them to know that I use it because I want to also train them how to use it for their business and how to work smarter so that they can be reconnected with their families and loved ones.
I love that. So, can you give me some examples of ways that you're using AI with project management?
Sure. So one of the ways is I would maybe help use it to help me create some risks, ideas of for risks or issues that might come up during a project that I'm working on. And I might say to the client, have you thought about this risk? Have you thought about this issue? What will we do? So we use it for planning. Additionally, I might use it and ask, what are some high level milestones for a project? Let's just say for building a website, and then I can use that to tell the client, okay, here's what I think your project plan should look like. Do you agree with these milestones? Do you think this is how we can measure the success of building your business? And if they say no, we edit it because they could say no. Again, AI is not perfect. But
Hmm.
yeah, so those are a couple ways that I might use AI for, helping a small business owner.
Cool. I like that. I've have been using it in social media posts a good bit. I will create graphics using doing it myself in Canva,
Mhm.
and then I will ask AI to provide like piece of content for LinkedIn to go along with the graphic about,
Hmm.
XYZ. And so that's one way. And then I recently started using it's an AI video software that can take long form content and then like chop it into shorts, put the subtitles out, things like that, which
Wow.
saves a lot of time when it comes to editing, because editing, when you do any kind of video or even just audio, the
Yes,
editing takes 5 times as long as the recording.
this is
So it's
true.
saving me a lot of time and energy there. So those are the two ways that I have been really using it so far. So thanks for the additional insight there. I'll definitely think about risks
Hmm.
as something to ask it. So it sounds like you do a lot to continue to raise your own bar for your personal and professional life. And you've told me about how you help clients to some degree. Um, I'm curious, if you could go back in time, is there any advice that you would give to your younger self? And at what particular age comes to mind when I ask you that?
Yeah, so this is a really tough question. I'd love to be able to go back and give all the tools that I have now to my younger self and tell her that, all things tend to work themselves out in time. That said, I believe that because of that, I'm not sure my younger self would have listened and I still would have had to learn the hard way. So it's really hard to picture any age because I am a stubborn and much more stubborn when I was younger. But I think I think especially my teenage self, I might say things tend to work themselves out.
That's good advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I would have told myself to accept wearing glasses, because I've struggled. When I was a kid, I would struggle so much with my glasses. And now I've learned to love them and embrace them. And, you know, that affected my self esteem. And I was bullied a little bit and things like that when I was younger. So for me, just letting go of that attachment to the ego as it relates to the glasses are just a tool. They're just a tool. And I now know that, but it took me a long time to accept them.
I know, and that just goes back to, I've been volunteering for years and probably since 2010 I've put in over 10,000 hours of community service in some fashion, from homeless youth to Habitat for Humanity, domestic violence, women's leadership, so much more. But um because of all of that volunteer work, I often encounter youth, and that's where my first business actually started, was working with youth. And currently, I am the director of youth and social impact for my local chapter. So it just sort of works out, as well as the social media coordinator. But I get exposed to youth, and I remember being young very well still, and to be able to say that everything's going to work out in the end is really hard for kids to understand. And back in the day, there was the It Gets Better campaign. Um, and I think kids really just want to know that someone cares right now. And one of the ways that we can, when we as adults come to that realization, like you use the glasses, for example, of this is this is just another tool. That's not a helpful piece of advice for our younger self. We'd be like, yeah, 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 right. So finding ways to encourage them, maybe you send them to the Lions Club to volunteer to give glasses to people who can't afford them. That'd be a way that they can see it from a different perspective, that they're like, oh, wow, what a blessing that I get these glasses and that I have parents that can afford them. So, it's all about perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Knowing what it's like to not have that tool, and putting yourself in the mindset of like, what if I lived in a country where we didn't
Mhm.
have things like running water and electricity? Like, it really makes you feel so much more just grateful for what you do have. So I
Mhm.
like that. And
Yeah, and
getting
that's pretty much how I raised my children too, was to, anytime I heard them complaining about something that I felt was absolutely a privilege, I wouldn't necessarily chastise them for complaining. I would say, I hear you. That sounds like it's difficult. And then I would schedule a volunteer event for them to join me on, um, fully intending to manipulate their thoughts, but in a way that was gentle and allowing them to come to their own conclusion and then to have a conversation about it later.
I love that. And, you know, there's nothing like experience. You can tell somebody something, but without
Mhm.
them experiencing it and getting those feelings that go along with the experience, you're not going to be able to get them to truly understand. So, what a brilliant way to get your kids to understand something by letting them experience for themselves. That's
Mhm.
wonderful.
And because I was such a stubborn child, I knew that was not going to be able to tell them anything because I knew it all.
Ah,
So, yeah, it works.
well, that is awesome.
I
I'm
sort of
curious.
approach how I work with my clients the same way, because I feel like, but they're not children, of course, but be able to show them the path, but allow them to reach the conclusion themselves, because those aha moments are what transforms their business and makes it unique to them. So I don't manipulate my clients like I was my children, allowing them to come to the natural conclusions through the use of the tools is important to me.
Well, the idea of just show, don't tell,
Exactly.
resonates. So if there's a way that you can lead your client to come to a conclusion on their own instead of telling them, I think that's the best way because one, it's their idea, then they're more likely to own it and be invested in it and actually do the work. And then two, nobody likes to be told what to do. I mean, doesn't matter your age, nobody likes to be told what to do.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
brilliant. I love that. So how do you stay true to yourself while you're juggling all of the different things with your business and your children and
Mhm.
your volunteer services and your PMI involvement? How do you stay true to Reggie?
Sure. It's a great question. I can say with confidence that nowadays I do not overpromise or overextend myself. This was not true 3.5 years ago. I wanted to do all the things. I was fully invested in hustle culture. I wanted to have my hand in every pot. And there is a part of me that still wants that, but the part of me that is has learned balance and all of these meditation and calming techniques. I've learned to listen to my body and stay centered. So when I began feeling that anxiety of like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, I tune into what my body needs and communicate effectively. That allows me to create lists and prioritize rather than allowing myself to unravel and spiral back into hustle culture because it's so easy to want to be doing all the things.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to be in that trap myself and early on in my career, before I even finished college, I got into that trap and then I moved over to Europe for a couple years and it completely changed my view. It literally opened up the my mindset and my view of the entire world because I realized not everybody lives the way we do. And there's so much more to life than just hustling and making money and getting accolades and getting a promotion, things like that. Well, time with loved ones is priceless. Time spent in nature, time spent reflecting to understand yourself better and your own motivations is so much more important than, getting hitting the next target or the next promotion or things like that because I'm getting up there in years and I've lost a lot of people in my life. So I kind of know at the end of the line what I want to be grateful for. And it's not the promotions and the money and the accolades, it's the relationships.
Yep. And without getting too philosophically deep, we in American culture have put money over morals and money over time with loved ones. And it there seems to be a correlation between the loss of religion and the loss of morality, which is super interesting to me. So again, without getting too philosophically deep, I am curious, how do we increase morality without religion?
Mm.
Because if they're tied so deeply together in our country, we need to separate the concepts perhaps to increase, and then also bringing in that culture of meditation and calmness and being in nature. I myself have been to Europe, and it is very different. I start almost every day of my life out with a walk in nature, and it's very important to who I am and how I stay grounded.
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. And all I can say is how I am. And I start most days out ideally in my garden. I grow things
Mhm.
and it's a way to, I mean, just I water, I weed, I pick if I've got fruit. This morning I was picking tomatoes and blackberries and strawberries. It just puts you in the right mindset for the day and it feels great. And it's a nice little snack, if you get to harvest
Mhm.
anything that you can eat. Um, I am not a religious person. I grew up without religion. I guess my mom was forced into the church, and so she rebelled against it. And then when she had me, she decided she wasn't going to push that on me. So I never even knew about religion really until I was an adult. And then I became a Christian early on, and then I stopped being a Christian at some point after studying other cultures and other religions and seeing that there seems to be a common thread with all of them, and that is simply be a good person, love your neighbor, treat them with respect. If you can follow those basic things, I think you hit the
Mhm.
mark for almost every single religion that's out there. um it's up to us to develop our morals, and I know a
Mhm.
lot of times those are instilled by our family or our church or whatever it is that we're brought up in. How do we instill those, one, in people that are adults that didn't have them, and two, without the religion? I don't have a good answer other than I know all I can do is I can be a good example. I can show that even though there are shady people, there are corrupt people all around, I get to choose to be moral and fair and just. And I came up with my own ethics and morals and I try to stick with them. And I'm not perfect. Sometimes I veer. Sometimes I do things that I'll look back on and go, yeah, that was a little shady. I shouldn't have done that. You have to learn, but I think self-reflection is a big part of it. So many people distract themselves because they don't want to reflect. When they sit down and
Mhm.
think to themselves, they get scared because they're not happy with who they are. I know that doesn't
Mhm.
help answer at all, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yep. I think we are all humans and we all have emotions, and depending on how they are acted upon, you could be meeting somebody on one of their worst days or one of their best days. And so I think one of my founding, I guess, principles is forgiveness. And that is because I'm always picturing myself, and I know I've been misinterpreted with, a grumpy look on my face. Somebody might think it was about them, when in reality, maybe I'm just really sad that my dog just died
Yeah.
and it's not about them. So, I think there was a commercial about that years ago that showed like what everybody was going through. And it said to remember that you have no idea what somebody is experiencing, and to have compassion just requires that you don't take things personal. So, again, we've gone off on the philosophical tangent, but that's okay because it is really part of who I am and how I run my business. So for people to know that I'm a moral and ethical person, I think is important, and to show them that I have a brain I use.
Yeah, and I love philosophy. Personally, I,
Mm,
I've studied a lot on my own time. Didn't go to school for philosophy or anything, but just it kind of became a hobby. But
mhm,
I
mhm,
love the idea that we get to choose every single day who we are. And even if you've made mistakes in the past, even if you've been unethical by
Mhm.
choice in the past, today you can choose to do different. You
Isn't
can
that so
choose.
cool?
It is. It
So,
really is.
yep.
Really is. So I'm here for the philosophical discussion anytime, by the way. Um,
That's
so
a
I,
separate podcast.
yes, and we can do that. We can absolutely have another discussion and lean into that conversation. But I just wanted to ask you just a couple more things as we wrap up. So
Sure.
what message do you want to share with the world, Reggie?
Hmm. Gosh, I would have to say one of my favorite quotes, which embodies the courage that we spoke about and something I've maintained through my life, is that courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point.
Hmm.
What does that mean exactly? It means when, let's take patience, for example. When you are in a crowded room and you have to wait your turn, and that is when you're being tested. Your patience is being tested. Which do you choose? Which path do you choose? Do you choose to be outrageous and angry? Or do you choose to be humble, quiet, and wait your turn? That is the very definition of courage. It's the virtue at its testing point.
Hmm. I like that. Choosing the hard thing.
Yeah, so to be courageous is difficult, but it's worth the work.
I love that. And one last, maybe two. Tell me, what would you like your legacy to be that you leave?
Wow, that's a big question. And I'll be honest, that's shifted many times in my life. Once upon a time, I wanted to be the first person to climb all of the skyscrapers, the stairs, to climb all the stairs in every skyscraper. Um, and another time it was to be the best grandma in the whole world. But at this moment, I'm not confident what I would say is my life's work or life's purpose yet. But I can say at the end of my life, I want everyone to know that someone cares and that everyone has a someone. And identifying that someone is oftentimes the life shifting moment.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Well, this has been a really good discussion, Reggie. Where can people follow you and find out more about what you do and maybe book you for a call in case they want to bring you on to help them in their business?
Sure. So I would encourage people who have a small business needing to streamline their processes or build their team, create SOPs, etc., to hop over to my website, reggiebailey.org. If instead you found me interesting as just a person that you'd like to talk to, you can still go to reggiebailey.org and reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss anything with you. If you're interested in my artist side, you can find me on Etsy, on Dream This Arts on Etsy.
Hmm.
So again, another aspect.
I love that. I
Yeah.
think I think art and science go hand in hand, honestly, and I didn't
Hmm.
used to know that or believe that. But now I realize it 100%. You kind of need both. So kudos to you for being able to recognize that and lean into it. And I definitely want to check out your Etsy shop. I
Please
think
do.
that would be really cool. Dream this. All right, Reggie. Well, you are awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and be on the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close it out?
Find your someone.
I appreciate that, Reggie. All
Yeah.
right. Well, take care and we will be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
You are very welcome.